Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back for another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. First, we have Israel bombed rescue teams when they were trying to save innocent lives in northern Gaza from China 20, and that's a cross post from the socialism subreddit. And I personally think that that's not good, but I think it's important to remember that war is inherently going to have all war and crimes on both sides because the winner is gonna say, "Oh, I didn't commit any war crimes because I won." Well, the loser is gonna get charged for everything. So that's my thoughts there. The thing is I think Israel probably has more resources, and I personally think they probably share a greater of the brain, but I'm not going to pretend that Hamas and Palestine are in it, then it's in either. I think they're authoritarian as well, I would say. I think the idea of the nation is authoritarian, I would say, as I said in the last episode, or at least one of the last episodes, and that's not something I personally care for, because, I think the nation is inherently collectivist, and we need to be focusing more on individualism than collectivism. Then we have I finally understand why both sides' arguments are annoying and wrong from China 20. That's a cross post from the socialism subreddit, and I personally would agree that both sides' arguments can be annoying sometimes, but I personally think they're probably the best because but each side's is pretty much the exact same. All people are exact same. They all want to bully to get what they all want to bully you to get what they want, and that's not something I personally care for. And the thing is that no, everyone just wants what they want. That's why Bill Watterson said Calvin Hobbes is always popular, because everyone's deep down was a bratty 6-year-old who wanted everything what they wanted, like Calvin. And that's something you definitely see these days when you look at pretty much any dispute whatsoever, I would say. Then we have Israeli colonial settlers have killed 51 Palestinians in the West Bank since Saturday. At least 2 Palestinian villages have been entirely depopulated from Intercept.com by China 20, and that's another cross post from the socialism subreddit. And I personally think that that's not good, but they just care more about the narrative that Israel's bad. They don't care to denounce Palestine's actions, So I personally think we need to denounce violent authoritarian actions on all sides of the conflict, and that's something that's important to remember, I would say. Then we have more mounting evidence of Israeli military itself attacking at the kibbutz Beret, according to Israeli eyewitness on a now censored Israeli state radio. They also dispute the propaganda of Israel against Palestinian fighters. They didn't hurt and treated us humanely. Link in comments. That's another one from Channel 20. That's a cross post from the socialism subreddit. This is just another one of their agenda posts we were talking about earlier. Then we have, as of September 25th, 2023, moderators were held to a code of conduct. Aware of any violations which could apply to you, here's how to report from Bartari on as a self-post. And I definitely do think we should be holding people accountable, and so that's something I would support, I would say. Then we have Israel's government apartheid against Palestinians from Amnesty.org from Child 20, and that's just another one of their Israeli anti-Israel agenda posts. I personally, as I said, I don't really care for Israel too much, but I definitely think that Palestine isn't that libertarian either, I would say. Then we have South Africa's president, Israel is an apartheid state from MiddleEastMonitor.com, and everyone by China 20. And that's kind of as I said, I personally think you could make that argument, and I think it's a decent argument, I would say. But I personally think that neither of them are that libertarian, the Palestinians or the Israelis. And then we have rare video, Nelson Mandela speaking on Palestine, Israeli government opposing apartheid and committed to the genocide of Palestinian population from Child 20, and that's kind of just the same thing as the previous one. Then we have Palestinian villages represented were missing on Google Maps from 7ml.org. That's by Frosty Slawman. And yeah, that's how big tech kind of manipulates the narratives when it comes to stuff like that, I would say, and that's something that normally normally the progressives would support, but here they aren't because it's going against the narrative. I'll write that down. Normally, the progressives would support big tech controlling the narrative when it aligns with theirs. But they don't here because it goes against their narrative. Then we have Economics Has Always Been a Scam from Jacobin.com by Comrade Prodhome. And that's the, the article is just drill down economics has always been a scam, but I definitely would agree that, the left kind of thinks all economics is a scam. The idea of economics is kind of a scam, so I would kind of agree with that. It's kind of a troll. They're kind of a troll, but, I kind of agree that the left would kind of think that economics is all a scam. And they would say don't get fooled by right-wing blabber. Terms like economics and supply and demand are fascist dog whistles. They are an excuse to violate our right to take what we need from the rich. They literally try to justify CEOs because of an invisible hand. I'm not kidding, they're really pushing mysticism. That does sound like a lot of people on the left, I would say. Then we have End the Federal Reserve from LP National on Twitter, and the full tweet was, central bankers have always been created to fund wars at the behest of politicians and bankers, never for the benefits of the people. Case in point, Janet Yellen assuring everyone that the U.S. has plenty of money to afford 2 wars, neither of which we have declared, both of which we fund. This is in spite of our trillions of dollars in debt, massive inflation, and the Federal Reserve. And I added, the U.S. government barely has enough money to buy a sandwich like most Americans, but suddenly they can fund 2 whole wars at the drop of a hat. That really makes you think, what are the priorities here? It's just endless war. That's all the priorities are. Then we have, why are USA conservatives, liberals, so media literate? Across from the Skeptic subreddit by ChaiTunnel20. And, I personally think, people are, it's kind of a, I personally think, it's like, look how stupid the out group is. That's kind of one of the biggest groups in social media. Out group is one of the most overused tropes on social media. Then we have Happy John Brown Day from ChaiTunnel20, and that's a cross-post from the Sherman Posting subreddit. And, it's a woman with a chaotic abolitionist energy shirt, and on the back there's a picture of John Brown. And I think that's, I personally think John Brown, he kind of violated the net, but, if I guess he could justify that he's violating the NAT for good purpose, but I personally wouldn't justify that, especially if I was a civilian at Harper's Ferry when he was doing his raid. But people will justify what they justify, I guess. Then we have The Impossible Economics of Fleeing Red State Fascism from YouTube.com, across from the RedTube subreddit by Chaitanil20. And, that's just kind of another one of their agenda posts about how, everything is fascism and when it is agree with it, but when it's authoritarianism they agree with, it's completely justified. Then we have California's Green Dream coming to your state from John Stossel on YouTube. And I said, just goes to show that in most cases, it's the unelected bureaucrats who really run everything when it comes to government. In this case, the Pennsylvania laws are just based all their energy standards off the California laws because the unelected bureaucrats said so, and that's how a lot of laws are they're just completely run by the unelected bureaucrats, not that of the elected bureaucrats. Then we have Hamas official asked to denounce Hamas on air from YouTube.com by Frosty Slawman, and I personally don't think, I personally think this is just another of the Israeli circle jerk posts, but, I definitely don't think, Hamas is our friend, just like how I don't think Israel is our friend. The collective government is not our friend. The individual is the only one that is our friend, because we can only trust ourselves. We can't trust these collective entities to always be on our side, I would say. Then we have our politicians don't talk like this about any foreign country other than Israel. Why should U.S. fight for his president, fight for Israel? I just find it bizarre. And that's from For Myself 22, and that's a picture of a Hill article. Trump, I fought for Israel like no president ever before. And I said, it's a grift. It's all a grift. Same with Ukraine. Then we have Recovery, a guide to reforming the U.S. health sector from Cato.org by Ruin My Circle Jerk. And I definitely would agree. We need, to reform the health sector, we need more private options. I think personally, if people want the state to pay their other groups, should be able to, but they shouldn't be entitled to that, because I think personally, if people want to have their own government, collectivist government, and have the state pay for healthcare with voluntary taxation, we should be able to. But I also think if people want private enterprise pay for their healthcare, should be able to. I personally think healthcare is not something you're entitled to, since it requires the labor of others. But I do think we should make getting it as easy as possible. So that's why I support, if people want it for the state and want to pay for it for volunteer taxation, they should be able to. But I also think people, if they want the private companies private, they should be able to as well, I would say. Then we have Stop Flinging Poo Over Politics from Common Sense Soapbox on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, missed this one when it came out, but definitely some people on social media because then learn. Everyone's always interested about circle jerking, whatever they want to set, whatever if their group about whatever their positions are, instead of reaching out to other groups and trying to find common ground. But that's something that I think would be helpful if more people try to find common ground rather than just endlessly circle jerk. But I don't think that's happening anytime soon, sadly. Then we have Congress is so old from Common Sense Soapbox, and I posted that, and I said, honestly, might be for the best. It's very clear that they aren't the ones running the show. Congress isn't running the government, the CIA, and COA. I personally think we should have the people run the government instead of Congress or the deep state. I just want everyone to make their own rules as long as they aren't hurting anyone else. Then we have, why do commies get a pass for their crimes from Omni1Po at post 73 and 7? And they said context for in the Marxist-Leninist subreddit celebrating down was 20 million deaths to his name. Of course, the comment got me because what I don't get is how there are no neo-Nazi subs lobbies and site policy, but celebrating someone I just as evil is fine. I'm talking about anarcho left here. I know they hate tankies too. And I said, if there is one thing you should learn from social media, it's that people always manage to justify the actions of their side/team. For example, if the groups that did summer 2020 riots and January 6th were reversed, I fully expect the groups to think they were the worst thing ever would switch as well. Then we have Jim Jordan fails to win House Speaker vote on first ballot from Axios. And I said, I still think he will take it eventually, but I don't think he will end up being that different from Paul Ryan or Kevin McCarthy. At the very least, it will make Redditors cope and seethe. The Dems only add themselves to blame. They could have stuck with McCarthy, but they decided not to. Also, his tenure probably is not going to be that different that long, and if the Dems take back the House next November, which is likely, I'm sure Redditors will get through it like they got through Trump's term in the White House. So I think that might be it for this episode. Exactly, is there anything new? I don't think so. So I think we're gonna wrap up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.